Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host Shannon Lane Newmark and Andrew Hanlon, Drew Hanlon. And we have a great lineup of guests for our show today. Shannon, will you please give us the rundown?
Sure, Herb. We'll be starting off our show with John Sharp, president of Hardenbergh Insurance Group, followed by Kimmell Proctor, CEO of Beyond Literacy. And we'll have Yury, Kaganov, CEO of MyDealerOnline. And we'll wrap up today with Chet, Mosteller, CEO of Herbein Mosteller HR Solutions.
Very good. Let's get to our first guest, John Sharp, president of Hardenbergh Insurance Group. John, what is Hardenbergh Insurance Group? What are you guys doing?
We're a regional risk manager located in Marlton, New Jersey, serving the Philadelphia area.
Mm-hmm. How large or how small is your team?
We have about 65 employees through our 3 locations.
All righty. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I was born and raised in Medford, New Jersey, which is Burlington County. I have 2 sisters. I'm in the middle, but one of my sisters is just 12 minutes younger than me because I'm a twin.
Okie dokie. So tell me a little bit about what was the effect of you growing up a twin?
Well, my sister was always bigger than me and stronger than me and a better athlete than me. So I always had to overcome a little bit of that. And also she was better looking than me. So it was a bit of a disadvantage for me growing up.
When you said you had to overcome it, how'd you overcome it?
Well, everything I did when I was younger was I felt like I had to outwork her and others just because I was smaller than everyone else. And again, not as talented as everyone else.
So give me an idea of this hard work, how this showed up when you were a kid, 8 to 14 or earlier.
Well, I think one example might be I used to try and work wherever I could. And one example is when I was a child, probably about 7 years old, I had a lemonade stand outside my grandparents' house. And we were fortunate. My grandparents lived right outside a baseball field. So we set it up out there during the games on Saturdays and made it a big sign in center field. And fortunately, many people came and bought lemonade from us. My grandfather tried to charge me for the lemonade, but he never followed through with that threat.
Mm-hmm. So you at a young age understood how to go about making money. I mean, that was pretty good placement right across from the baseball field. And whose idea was it to put the sign in center field? And did you walk around with that sign or anything?
Yeah, it was my idea. And we would walk around with the sign if we didn't have constant flow. But typically there was flow. People were always coming over.
Mm-hmm. So you have a sense of marketing, and I'm wondering if your sense of marketing has helped you build this agency known as Hardenbergh Insurance Group.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of what we do. We have to reach out to clients on a daily basis, to both new clients and our current clients, and find different ways to help them manage their risk. So we do that through marketing and finding them and then communicating to them where we can help them on their risk management journey.
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
John, in the green room, we talked about your dyslexia. I'm curious, what impact did that have when you were a kid growing up?
Well, it was very difficult growing up because due to my dyslexia, I was a very late reader. So I always felt like I didn't have the same intelligence level as my peers, which of course included my sisters, who I was always comparing myself to, especially being a twin.
And having to go through that and overcome that disability there, what did you learn from that experience that you carry with you nowadays?
Well, the only way I was taught to get through it was to work harder, study more, and train my brain to read things the right way. So I was able to take that work ethic that I learned at a very young age out of necessity. And I think I've pushed that forward throughout my career. And that's really how I operate today.
John, what was mom and dad like?
My mom and dad were incredibly supportive parents. They were around for everything. They worked with us. They read with me. They studied with me. They were at all my games. My dad coached everything. They were fantastic supporters of us.
What was the impact of that as a kid, having such a support system around you?
I think it makes a tremendous deal. I mean, I look back now and I have 4 kids and I try and do the same thing to my children, just to know that I had this, like you said, support system always behind me. No matter if I wasn't great at something or I was great at something, they loved me and supported me no matter what. So it's a big deal.
And how does that impact your business and your client relationships today?
I think I feel the same way about my clients. Our job is to support them through good and bad. So if they have a loss, we need to be there to support them. And if things are going great and they're growing the business, we need to support that change as well.
And John, you told us a story I thought was fascinating, that you played baseball, but your senior year, you didn't really get much field time, but you were still the captain. What's that tell us about you?
Yeah, so I was fortunate. I barely made the team. In fact, I probably shouldn't have been on the team, but through 4 years of working hard, they kept me around. And I was blessed that my teammates saw that, the hard work that I performed. And even though I wasn't the best player, in fact, I think I had 2 at-bats the whole season, they tried to and recognized me for the effort that I put in.
And what would those teammates tell us about you today? What would they say?
I think they would just recognize the fact that I was willing to come and work as hard as possible, and didn't have the skill set or the talent level they had, but was willing to try and overcome that through hard work.
And are you still friends with any of those guys today?
Yeah, sure.
What's that tell us about you?
When you go through athletics as a child and then through high school, and you build incredible relationships and memories, I think they last a lifetime. And in my case, they have. So it's just a community that we built together, and we still stay tight. And social media helps that too.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned when you were a kid that your sister or sisters were better than you in many different ways, and that you had to work harder. So you felt not good enough about yourself. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I was really late to grow. I think I was 19 or 20 years old before I hit my true growth spurt, as my parents put it. So I was really, really small. And my sister, on the other hand, when she was 11, I think she was to the height she is today. So it was just a very different dynamic. And again, comparing yourself to your twin, which is a natural thing, it was kind of difficult.
So how's this feeling not good enough about yourself as a kid translate into the growth of the business? And how high is high enough for the business? What's good enough for the business?
Well, I mean, to me, there's never good enough. We can continue to grow every single day, and that's our objective. And one thing that always drives me, and I think people can relate to, is when someone tells me I can't do something, that's when look out, because that's not something that I'll ever accept.
Mm-hmm. So this lemonade stand, whose idea was it when you were 7 years old?
Yeah, it was my idea.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like not only were your parents behind you, but your grandparents were behind you as well, because they helped you with the lemonade stand?
Yeah, so my grandma made the best lemonade in our minds. It was just country time lemonade, but that was the best. So we said, man, this is great. We got to sell this to other people. And of course, they supported me. We used to spend the night over there. And that's where in the mornings we would wake up early and get the table out and make the lemonade, and was pretty successful. It was a lot of fun.
And your grandfather would threaten you that he was going to charge you for the lemonade, but he never did.
Yeah, always. And now I threaten my kids the same way when they do stuff like that.
So what you do?
I'm curious, what your advice would be to maybe a kid that was facing a challenge or like a little bit of an uphill battle. What advice would you give them?
For me, it's just, you can overcome anything that's in front of you. You've got to work hard, and you've got to look at things maybe in a different manner than other people. So work hard, be creative, and you can overcome whatever is in front of you.
And how did your twin sister, when you were playing baseball, did she come watch?
She was involved in sports on her own. She was a varsity athlete from early on and very successful. So no, she wasn't able to come see me.
But you guys, it sounded like you supported each other pretty much.
Absolutely. We're very close. And so is my older sister with us. We're a very close family.
So how does this ability to be very close but yet competitive affect your building this team and growing this organization?
Yeah, that's really what we are here, right? We're a family. We always say we're a family organization, and we are. But we can compete with each other. And if someone comes across an opportunity that someone else is working on, we just work together. That's how we operate. And if you can't operate in that function, then you don't belong here. We have to be a family. We have to work together. And it makes sense that that's how we operate as kids too.
Mm-hmm. And the website address for this organization, the Hardenbergh Insurance Group, what's your website address?
We are hig.net.
hig.net. How'd you get involved with this organization? Did you start it or did you join it?
No, my grandfather started the organization 67 years ago. My uncle ran it for 40 years. I took it over 7 years ago and have been running it since.
Uh-huh. And give me the website address one more time for the Hardenbergh Insurance Group.
It's HIG.net.
HIG.net. We've been speaking with John Sharp, president of Hardenbergh Insurance Group here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, stick around. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break.
You now can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your advisors. Yes, this radio and online social media exposure is free and quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Kimmell Proctor, CEO of an organization known as Beyond Literacy. Kimmell, what is Beyond Literacy? What are you folks up to?
We are Philadelphia's largest adult education and family literacy nonprofit.
Mm-hmm. How many folks are there in your market, and how many folks do you serve each year?
In the city of Philadelphia, there are about 800,000 low literate adults. So that's adults reading below the 5th grade level.
Mm-hmm. How many are you able to help annually?
We serve about 2,000 annually.
All righty. And where you're from originally, how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm the oldest of 2. I have a younger brother, and we grew up really all over. We were from a military family. I spent the most number of years in Virginia, although different locations within Virginia. So I consider myself.
How many schools did you go to prior to graduating high school?
7.
7 schools prior to graduating high school. Drew, will you give me a hand, please?
Yeah, I mean, Kimmell, what was that like going to all different schools, and how did you make friends?
I really looked to the school as sort of my support system and entree into making friends, creating community. I was always sad to leave the school where I was.
Do you think there's any connection to the fact that you felt community at those schools with what you're doing nowadays?
Oh, sure. I have a lot of respect for education and educators. Teachers really made all the difference for me in terms of the ones that took the time and care to really shepherd me in and integrate me into the school culture.
And you told us about one particular teacher. There was a headmaster at a boarding school. So I think you went away and stayed at school. First, what was that experience like, being younger and going to stay by yourself?
I spent 2 years in boarding school because my father was stationed spur of the moment with very little notice in Hawaii, and I didn't want to leave the family I just found in Virginia, my family of friends and peers. And so I became very inspired there by the headmistress, Margaret Broad, who was really all about empowering these young women. It was an all-girls boarding school, and she was just delightful.
What do you bring to work every day today that Margaret taught you?
She was such a mother hen to all of us, and yet, really wore all the different hats and was unafraid to get her hands dirty. And so I try to be the same way. I think my team would say I'm unafraid of challenges and am hopefully supportive to them all.
Mm-hmm. Shannon, what are you thinking?
Kimmell, in the green room, you mentioned that you actually took a year off in 10th grade and you were the Senate page. Tell us more about that.
Mm-hmm. I had heard about an opportunity to apply to be in the Virginia State Senate as a page. So it was really just almost like an internship, but year long. And so we were taught in a hotel. We lived in a hotel room. We were taught by tutors. And during the day, we got to spend in the chambers watching the senators at work. And it really gave me an appreciation for the way policy affects everything we do and the importance of building coalitions and relationships within sort of any atmosphere. But
what's that building coalitions have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
Oh gosh, I mean, partnerships are everything for us. We can't do anything in a silo. So we work very closely with other organizations that help immigrants and share similar missions as us and just try to support each other.
Gotcha. Shannon, I'm sorry, I just had to ask that question. What else are you thinking there?
I was curious, in the green room, you mentioned your children. What have they taught you that you bring with you into work every day?
I try to be a role model for them. I try to expose them to unique opportunities similar to the way I was, and really to appreciate the education that they receive. I'm able to put in enough work in advance to make sure that they are in the schools that are right for them, that they're high performing and challenging to them. And my hope is that they appreciate that and form really long-lasting relationships with their educators as well.
Well, your mom did the same for you. She really sought out the best schools for you when you moved around. What was the impact of that on you today, do you think?
I think I really appreciate school and just education in general as a real equalizer. And I think there's such inequity in the system right now, and it's education that brings opportunity. And so that's really what our mission is all about at Beyond Literacy.
How did your mom know that?
I think as parents, we're all just doing the best we can, and we all want the best for our kids. It's just some of us have more barriers than others, or not as much awareness, which really gets at that generational aspect of education and making sure that as parents, we're our children's first teachers.
And you said that your father was in the military. I think he worked on submarines, and he was gone a good bit of the time. What was like the impact of that on growing up?
I think as a child, I just thought it was cool because, he was in submarines, and it was the same time as Hunt for Red October was big. So he was sort of this Sean Connery figure in my mind, larger than life. But I think now as an adult, I can really appreciate his service to his country and just being very mission minded.
You have a great deal of respect for your father, don't you? How's that playing out in terms of what you do for a living?
Sure, absolutely. I have a lot of respect for the doers. Our organization employs primarily teachers and educators, and I feel like they're the ones that really are getting the work done. And so, while I'm up here in leadership, I really want to make sure that they feel supported and respected as on-the-ground service providers.
You mentioned when you were a kid that the school was very important and getting integrated into the school. And you mentioned you were a member of a lot of different clubs. What kind of clubs were you a member of?
Really anything that I felt I could join. I was in academic clubs, service club, international club, you name it, I would join it.
Mm-hmm. And is that because you're a joiner or a doer? What role did you play in those clubs?
Because I was never in one place for very long, I wouldn't necessarily, grow to be the captain, but I was definitely a worker bee, and I was there to pitch in as needed. And I like to keep busy. So I think there was that.
You mentioned earlier in the green room that you were the yes person. What do you mean you were the yes person? What are you talking about?
If somebody needed a volunteer for something, I would be the yes person. I was always up for whatever.
Mm-hmm. What's that have to do with who you are nowadays?
I'm not afraid of change, I think. And so, if there's something difficult that's going on or something new, I don't necessarily shy away from that.
Mm-hmm. So you like the new, you like the different. And how's that helping you grow this organization known as Beyond Literacy? Has it always been known as Beyond Literacy? Has it always been exactly the same as it once was?
So no, we just recently merged two literacy organizations, both Philadelphia-based, together to become Beyond Literacy. So that merger's brought a lot of change, as you can imagine, to both.
So you're not afraid of that, but you think it's your role to help keep leading the organization through change. Am I correct about that?
Yes.
Uh-huh. So you like new ideas, but you also like service. You're like the perfect blend to be the CEO of this organization, because you like change, but you really believe in the mission of the organization. Am I picking that up correctly?
Sure. I mean, it made a lot of sense. It wasn't done lightly. There was a lot of due diligence that was involved, and we're stronger together. So
you're stronger together. So you really enjoy the idea of collaborating and working with.
Absolutely. Yeah, it goes back to that partnership piece that's just so important.
Do you ever get a chance to talk to any of the people that your organizations helped last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago?
Oh, that's my favorite thing, is to, sit in on classes or work with our peer counselors and just hear their backstory. We graduated 42 adults last year with their GEDs. And so interviewing them to find out where they are now and where that opportunity took them is a big piece of what I do.
Wow, that's the best part of your job. What's the website address for your organization?
BeyondLiteracy.org.
We've been speaking with Kimmell Proctor, CEO of Beyond Literacy here on Executive Leaders Radio. Stick around for it. We'll be back in a moment right after this quick break. Don't go anywhere. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Yury Kaganov, CEO of MyDealerOnline. Yury, what is MyDealerOnline? What are you guys doing?
MyDealerOnline is a software platform that provides consumers access to thousands of used cars at considerable discounts through their local car dealers. You can think of it as Amazon type of a buying experience for the cars.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from originally? How many brothers and sisters? Where are you in the pecking order?
I am originally from Ukraine. I'm the oldest brother. I only have one sister.
All right, so the oldest of two. And how young were you when you came to the United States, and why and with whom?
I came in when I was 21, and I came in with my family, my mother, father, and a sister. My grandfather immigrated to the United States back in the 79, so we came in to rejoin the family.
Mm-hmm. And 8 to 14 years old, what kind of stuff were you up to in the Ukraine? What were you doing?
So I am, by nature, I'm the car guy. Whatever is with the engine that excites me and moves me. So I was trying to do everything with that respect. So one of those things that I've done is got my bicycle, took it apart, purchased a used small one-cylinder engine, and with my neighbor, we kind of matched it and put it on the bicycle, and got the first motorized vehicle in the development.
Uh-huh. So you went ahead and motorized this bike. What was the evolution of that idea? What did that lead to?
That was kind of interesting because other kids got envious of this and asked, oh, how did you do this? And where did you get that? So I ended up helping them assembling the similar types of vehicles.
Mm-hmm. So you were evolving the business model as a young entrepreneur. And this idea, this business, MyDealerOnline, has this business evolved as well?
Yes, it is. So, like I said, I'm the car guy, and I've been in an automotive space for a long time, and I've had multiple businesses, starting from the dealership and buying and selling cars, and working with the auctions and all the different things. So, one of the companies I have founded before is Ride Safely, which was servicing insurance companies, selling the salvage vehicles to the rebuilders, recyclers, exporters, and so on and so forth. So MyDealerOnline kind of evolved from it, where we are now handling the regular cars for the regular customers and providing them the choices of the wholesale inventory that they don't otherwise have.
Mm-hmm. Drew, can you give me a hand?
Yury, I'm curious, do you remember when you were younger, like a certain vehicle or car you really loved or looked up to?
Well, it's an interesting question. So back in the Soviet Union, right, you only had local cars. You really didn't have any import cars. So I was happy with any car that I could get. Getting a car by itself was already a whole the privilege. But I was always a Porsche guy. So I always loved the Porsche 911s. That was my favorite car, still is.
And what did you think of the United States when you were 14 or 15?
Well, when I was growing up, I was still behind the Iron Curtain, right? So with that respect, there was a lot of propaganda saying that, Soviet Union is always great and America is always bad. But as the time went by and the Soviet Union started falling apart, we started getting some different information trickling down. And, maybe it's not that bad out there. Maybe it's not that good over here. And obviously, when I came over, my eyes opened. It's the land of the opportunity. It allows anybody to succeed if they put their hand and mind to it.
And you mentioned many times throughout our green room interview how you like to help people with a variety of things, fix a bike, study. Where'd that come from? Where'd that passion to help others come from?
I don't know. Maybe it was instilled in me by my parents, or maybe I just had something in there. But when I was in school, I was a good student, right? And a lot of different subjects were quite easy for me to grasp. So people in school started asking me, well, how do you understand this? And how do you make this done? And I didn't mind helping out. And I actually liked explaining to people my experiences, and I really appreciated when they actually listened and applied that. I did get discouraged when they didn't listen, but
Isn't that what you're still doing today? Is helping people get the vehicle that they want?
Pretty much. That's where the idea came from for MyDealerOnline. How do you help people get better deals and better choices and better selection of the cars and make it easy for them to purchase?
Shannon?
Can you tell us a little bit more about your mom and what she was like when you were growing up?
So my mom was a teacher, and she was very accepting of all the different crazy ideas that I was coming up with. If I were like with that bicycle, disassemble the bicycle that they paid good money for, and we weren't rich, so we didn't get much money to spend on that. But she was okay with me kind of taking it apart, and if I break it, I break it. And the same thing happened when I took apart the tape recorder, which I wanted to make something else with it. She was accepting, and she was always encouraging me. Yeah, you should try. You should try to do what you need to do. And if it breaks, it breaks. But, you can always fix it.
And looking back at that now, what does it mean to you that your mom was so supportive and would encourage you to, use your creative side, even if it meant that something might end up broken?
Well, it really encouraged me to look at the opportunities and without being scared of trying them out, right? Open your own business. Okay, try it. And yeah, you may fail, but you also have a chance of succeeding. And if that doesn't succeed, then maybe you try something else and that will succeed. So I think that really affected my entrepreneurial spirit of opening different companies and trying to do different things.
And what about Dad?
My dad was an engineer, and he actually involved me in all the mechanical, electrical, and different things. So I got my interest in there. He was the first one who introduced me to computers at the time when the computer was the size of the refrigerator in the computer room, and helped me write my first computer program with that. But he was also the supporter in all the different sports that I've done through the years. And I've tried quite a few of them. And the ones that I stuck with, he always was behind. He always attended all the tournaments that I had and always cheered for me. And even when I started traveling through the country and visiting other cities and he couldn't make it to the tournament to see it, he would always find his friend that lives in that city that would go and cheer me on there. So he's my pusher, cheerleader, and he's the one that actually taught me the persistence.
And what did that mean to you to either have your dad, on the sidelines cheering you on, or the fact that your dad went out of his way to make sure that some family friend was there on that sideline for you?
That means a lot because first of all, you always feel good when people care for you and when people are behind you and ready to support you in any kind of situation. So it kind of opens up your mind and makes you think that I can try anything. I have the support behind me. I should be able to succeed.
And how does that carry over to the way you're building your team nowadays?
I tried. I don't know if I can be as good as my parents, but, I try my best to use the same type of mentality to compliment the people when they produce a good result, and really not to criticize them too much when they do not produce those results. It still is the encouragement. It still is the team effort. And at the end of the day, we're all looking at the same result. So when we work as a team, we are better at it.
Yury, you mentioned that one of your favorite sports was badminton, and you were on that team that traveled around the country. And I'm wondering, what was the personality trait that you brought to that team, that badminton team?
That's interesting. I mean, badminton is normally the individual sport, right? So it's singles, doubles, and mixed doubles, but there are also team competitions where multiple people are kind of grouped together and perform as a team. And so when I was on that traveling team that traveled Ukraine and actually back in the day, Soviet Union, I was the captain of that team. So I had pretty much like an upbeat personality. So I would always make the jokes and I would always encourage the people. And I was the least shy out of all. So they kind of said, all right, he's our guy.
What do you mean he's our? So you were the captain of the team?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And, it sounds like you're the captain of the team nowadays, too. What's the website address for this organization, MyDealerOnline?
MyDealerOnline.com.
We've been speaking with Yury Kaganov, CEO of MyDealerOnline, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, we'll be back in a moment right after this quick break.
Recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, Executive Leaders Radio. Yes, you can recognize your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Simply visit executiveleadersradio.com, securely enter their info, and we'll reach out to spotlight your deserving business advisors on our nation's leading Business with Heart radio show, executiveleadersradio.com. Don't wait. This radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable. Yes, this radio and online social media and search engine exposure is quite valuable to your business advisors who deserve to be recognized. Visit executiveleadersradio.com now to nominate your deserving business advisors for free exposure.
We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce a gentleman by the name of Chet Mosteller, who's the CEO of Herbein Mosteller HR Solutions. Chet, what is Herbein Mosteller HR Solutions?
We're a full-service human resource consulting firm serving all size clients on their human resource need throughout the Mid-Atlantic and beyond.
And where you're from originally, how many brothers and sisters, and where are you in the pecking order?
I'm from a rural community outside of about 35 miles outside of Philadelphia, a lot of farm. I am the second in five with an oldest sister and three youngest brothers.
And when you say rural, did you grow up on a farm? And if so, how young were you when you started working on the farm? Yes,
I grew up on a chicken farm. And I was probably 6 or 7 when my parents said, okay, go out and collect eggs or, clean out the chicken pen or clean out the chicken house.
So did you inconsistently do those chores, or did you do them with some rigor?
No, you had to do it with rigor. It was a good Pennsylvania Dutch family, so you had to commit and you had to deliver.
So what's that have to do with what you're doing nowadays?
Well, it's the same thing. You work hard, you do things that you need to do them, you do them the right way, and you're going to hopefully be successful.
So you mentioned that Dad was a chicken farmer, And then he ended up buying a business, a feed mill, when he was 13. So did you ever work in that feed mill?
Yeah, I worked in it when I was 13. After my 7th grade year, he said, "Come work for the summers." Toting around, carrying 100-pound feed bags, delivering feed throughout the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. How long did you do that job for?
I did it for 2 summers before he said, "Okay, now it's time for you to go work for somebody else during the summer."
And what'd you learn lugging around those 100-pound bags and working with your dad when he bought that business?
Well, I learned you had to be healthy. I was somewhat pudgy, and so I had to build up some muscle to do that. But what I really learned was family business, and my dad, the integrity with which to be successful in the business world. At the end of the day, that's the important thing. A person of your word. He would need a truck. He would call the bank, and the bank said, "Okay, here it is." You didn't have to sign 10 zillion documents. It was, of your word, and the integrity that went along with that.
Well, what's that of your word have to do with building this business, this HR consulting business, which is connected to a significant and growing accounting firm?
Well, it's the same thing. You have to be able to commit to something and then deliver it. And your word is the most important thing out there. We don't have multiple page contracts. We commit to something and then we deliver.
Mm-hmm. Drew?
Yeah, what did that mean to you to see your dad operate and behave like that?
Well, certainly a role model, and certainly, when you have your own business, there's a couple of ways you can go and to do what's right by your customer. He really pounded that into me, and it stayed with me the whole time.
Do you think that made you a leader? It sounds like you were running the kickball games and pretty much everything else throughout middle school and high school. Where did that leadership come from?
Well, I asked myself that question a lot. Part of it, I think, was because I was academically successful and viewed that way. But I think it was also because there was a certain quiet assuredness, even though I was referred to as nerdy, in some of that time periods. I wasn't one of the popular people, but I was one of the people you could count on. And so therefore I got chosen to be captain, co-captains the whole way through my athletic career, as well as leaders within school.
And how did those opportunities inspire what you do today?
Well, I think it's one of the key things that made me mid-career say, okay, I'm going to leave the corporate arena for a vast unknown of HR consulting, which is not a known consulting venue in business in the business world. So it really was a leap of faith. And so I think, given the leadership and given my dad's entrepreneurship, that said, okay, I think I can do this. This is a market, and let's start delivering and let's go.
When you were faced with a tough decision when you were getting started, what did you hear your dad whispering in your ear?
Do it the right way, regardless of whether you get paid for it or not. I also had an individual that said, to be successful in consulting, you got to start consulting, and eventually they'll recognize it and they'll pay you. And I've lived by that a long time.
Mm-hmm. Shannon?
Chet, you serve on several boards of community organizations. I'm curious, how young were you when this idea of giving back first started showing up in your life?
Well, one of the things that, growing up in a church family, and my mom and dad very involved in the church, was the concept of giving and helping your fellow people, whether it be families in need or whatever. And through college, I was in a service fraternity, and my mom and dad were in a number of charitable organizations when I was growing up. So once again, it would be that role modeling. And I just kept doing it. And the corporate organization I was with was in banking, and banking's very community minded. So I was involved with a ton of different social service boards throughout the community.
When you were volunteering with the church with your parents starting from a young age, what's one thing that sticks out to you that you remember doing that had an impact?
Probably helping a particular family that had some needs, and going to their house and trying to help do some things around the house. That was with our youth group. So that today it's known as a mission trip, although it was localized at that point in time.
In volunteering your time back then, what did you learn from those experiences that you're still carrying with you nowadays?
We're very blessed in so many ways, and to get real fulfillment in life, I think is to share that and give to others. It works in business, it works in social service, it works in your family. That's where I think at the end of the day you get real satisfaction, is in giving and helping others.
Wait. What are you talking about? Meaningfulness and fulfillment in business? What?
Come on, Herb. What you really want to do is have a fulfilling life, and a fulfilling life is to me it's multifaceted. It's your faith, it's your family, it's your friends, it's your community, and it is your business world or your chosen profession, whether it be in the nonprofit world or whether it be in the business world. And early on when I was young, I did have a teacher that said, you need to balance all these things. You can't be one-sided and one-dimensional. And that was another thing and my parents also promoted that, whether it be music or whether it be athletics or whether it be business or summer jobs and friends, you need to have that well-balanced that gives you richness in life.
Do you ever develop personal relationships with any of your clients? And is it purely for business, or do you really get to know them, and do you really let them get to know you?
Oh, yeah. In the HR business, you have to get to know them because it's all based on credibility and reputation and relationship. One of my earliest customers, I used to get on site to their office at 7:30 in the morning. The custodian used to open up the back door for me and say, "Hi, Chet, how you doing today?" And we had a nice conversation, even though business-wise, I had no relationship with them.
Why would you do that?
Because it's the right thing to do. It's, you have to enjoy your fellow humankind, and that's critical. And it's critical in my particular business also because you're dealing with people, and that's the key thing.
So the richness comes from other people, relationships with other people, as opposed to fancy cars?
Absolutely. And it comes from seeing people be successful. We do executive search, and the thing I love to do is see somebody that we've placed 3 years later, 4 years later, succeeding extremely well.
So you really have a deep sense of who people are. I mean, you really appreciate people. That's the richness you're talking about. And that's also the business you're in, like, for example, with the executive search, trying to figure out who's going to fit where. So you have this natural ability to feel who people are and where they fit.
Absolutely. I mean, chemistry, especially in the executive C-suite, is the most critical thing relative to somebody being successful in an organization.
How young were you? Was it at the student council or the band or the honor society? How young were you when you understood where other kids fit?
Probably upper elementary, junior high.
What happened? Give me an experience.
You would see somebody who was during those days who would be not abused, but would be judged inappropriately. And you say, that's not right. You got to stand up for that person. And that's key. It's not just the undertrodden, but you have to do it.
You understand where people fit and what's right. What's the website address for Herbein Mosteller HR Solutions?
Herbein.com, Herbein.com.
We've been speaking with Chet Mosteller, CEO of Herbein Mosteller HR Solutions here as well. Shannon, can you give me a rundown on who's been on the air today?
Sure, Herb. We had a great show today. We started off with John Sharp, president of Hardenbergh Insurance Group, followed by Kimmell Proctor, CEO of Beyond Literacy. Then we had Yury, Kaganov, CEO of MyDealerOnline. And just now we wrapped up with Chet Mosteller, CEO of Herbein Mosteller HR Solutions.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts, including Shannon Lane Newmark and Andrew Hanlon, for giving me a hand structure in the questions, hoping providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. Thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.